afternoon. We are very pleased to have who became a very good friend of ours who's going to do a presentation on the true definition of winning. He is a three-time Olympian, 1972, 76, 84, two-time medalist, 10-time world record holder, elected to the Hall of Fame in 1998, and he's still the highest ranked high jumper in history. Without further ado, I'll give you Dwight Stone.
I'm going to tell you why that this has been such a passion of mine. We are in a society where winning is cherished over everything else, almost to the point of it doesn't matter what you have to do to win. After the 1976 Olympic Games, which I lost because I finished third, and that plays into the story I'm about to tell you. I'm in the grocery store that fall, shopping for supplies. I'm in the aisle, and a guy comes up and says, "Hey, aren't you Dwight Stone?" "Wow, it's really a pleasure to meet you. Which Olympics did you win the gold medal in?" I said, "Actually, I won 2 bronze medals." He went, "Oh, then you lost." And that really shocked me, because I hadn't really thought of it in those terms. And I went, technically, yeah, you're right. Even though they said he won a bronze medal, I prefer to think of it that way, but yeah, two people beat. And I started thinking about how negative a message that sends. And what does that say to our young people? What does that say to our own children? Parents are the most well-meaning people, certainly for their own kids, and we develop into well-meaning people for all kids, especially if we're educators. Who here is an educator besides a coach? All right, most of you. So you're dealing with kids on many different levels every single day. Maybe counseling them, you're teaching them in the classroom, you're coaching them, which is, of course, teaching. Even the most well-meaning adults, we give our kids, our own and most others, scores of negative reinforcement every single day without meaning to do so. That's with no help from the media, which I've been a part of for more than 35 years. When you have the #1 shoe company, sporting goods name, icon in the world, Nike, telling you and your kids that you don't win silver, you lose gold, and that second place is the first loser, what is that supposed to tell our kids about what winning really means? So I started that day, it's almost 40 years ago now, on a campaign to try and re-educate kids and parents and coaches and teachers into how we use language regarding how we motivate our kids and what messages we send them with our words. And they are very powerful messages, including that which we use to coach ourselves. As an individual sport athlete, and I'm sure AJ can tell you, like any track and field athlete can, swimmer can, anyone, how you coach yourself is critical. You don't have good days every day. There are bad days of training. Worst day of training is when you get hurt. But there are plenty of days when you just don't accomplish the goals that you've set for yourself, and you start to question, is this a workout I really can't handle yet? Or did I execute it poorly? Or do I just have higher expectations that my body can meet? You question yourself constantly. And that's in the absence of a coach if you train on your own most of the time. How the words you use when you coach yourself are hugely impactful. For example, the worst word you can possibly use when you coach anyone, including yourself, is the word don't. That word, for some reason, the brain does not understand and does not perceive and it just doesn't recognize. So think about what comes after don't. In my case, I was landing on my plan a lot, which is not good on a whole lot of different levels. So I was telling myself, don't land on your plan. Well, when you remove don't, you get land on your plan, which my body promptly was doing repeatedly, until I realized and had someone tell me that that's what it was that I was doing. So if you think about any sport that you coach, not just track, basketball coaches, football coaches, and your athlete is doing something that you would prefer they did not do, and you're telling them to not do it by saying, don't do this, they will continue to do that same exact thing. And you may mistakenly view that as insubordination, stupidity, a number of very negative things, when all it was is that you gave them a cue that you didn't realize you gave them, and they were executing that cue. It's the same thing when we're trying to encourage our kids, and my area is winning. The true definition of winning, in my opinion, is a person giving 100% of their capability with every wish for a positive outcome and achieving that outcome. Let me illustrate. In our country, it isn't just enough to win one gold medal in the Olympic Games. If you are multi-evented, as many athletes in our own sport are, but certainly swimmers, but in track and field, Allison Felix is going to try and manipulate the schedule in Rio so that she can compete in 4 events. And she should be successful because other athletes have asked for it and gotten it before. Unless she wins all of those events, she's going to be considered a failure. NBC is going to play it up, the papers are going to play it up, she's going to play it up, the people who support her, her shoe company are going to play it up, and if and when it does not happen, it's going to be a failure. So that's the first thing that is bad about multi-talented athletes at that level. Because there's an expectation in this society that if you're going to do it, you're going to achieve it. It's not that way in most parts of the rest of the world. Making it to the Olympic Games, as big an accomplishment as it is in this country, it's considered a given for anyone that knows someone who's training for it. Oh, he's training for the Olympics. That is almost an automatic that therefore he's going to be on the Olympic team. And that's absurd. This is the hardest team to make in the world. Sure, there are other countries where individual events are harder to make. I'll make that concession. But generally speaking, considering the amount of pressure on an athlete to make this team, to then go on to become a winner in the Olympic Games, it's a foregone conclusion that if you are 4th in the Olympic trials, you are a huge loser because you don't even get to go to the Olympic Games. Just being at the Olympic trials is not enough. Anybody can make it to the Olympic trials is what people think. They don't realize what it takes to qualify to even go to that track meet, how good you have to be to qualify for that track meet. What a tremendous resume entry that is for you to have competed at the Olympic trials. And I was fortunate enough, good timing, that I participated in 5 of them, and I was successful 60% of the time. Still lost twice. Actually, lost 3 times, because I only won the trials twice, and I was 2nd the other time. And then I was 10th, and then I didn't make the final. But I was there 5 times. But we don't reward people in this society because they showed up unless you're playing t-ball. Then we reward everyone. Doesn't that seem odd to you? That the little kids, we give them participation trophies, they get trophies. I don't know about you, my first trophy was when I was 14 for 14 and under doubles. And I was so proud of that trophy. I will tell you, it was in my office until I was about 50. It was my first ever trophy. Most of you are not old enough to get excited about the first t-shirt that you had that had writing on it. That was big. Now you can't get a t-shirt without writing on it. So what we want and what we desire and what we crave, it changes. But the expectation as we go up the ladder changes dramatically. If you're good in high school, you get an athletic scholarship. Okay, all right. So if you're good in college, you get to play professionally. If you're really good in college, you get to leave college and stop becoming educated and play this game at the professional level. And if you played for 3 years in the NFL, you get a pension. That's all you got to make it is 3 years. What does that tell you about how long a normal NFL career lasts? Only takes 5 years in Major League Baseball. So as we go up the ladder, the expectation is huge from all of us who are fans. And our behavior and our thinking about winning changes. What do you think about when you think about the Buffalo Bills? They won the Super Bowl 4 times in a row. They lost every single time. They're a pariah in the NFL. It's terrible to even associate yourself with that team until recently, I guess. Now they're having a renaissance about how great it was that they were a Super Bowl team 4 times. Forget the fact that they lost all 4 times. But they made it to the big game 4 times. Only a couple of those times where they sort of expected to make it there. But they lost. They suck. So that is the message we are giving our colleagues, our peers, our kids, without even knowing it, and certainly not meaning to do it. In other countries, you make the Olympic team, that's a pretty big deal, that you achieve that standard in our sport. That's a big deal. You keep going through the rounds and you make the final. Olympic finalist is a big resume item for most athletes in most sports in the rest of the world. Olympic finalist is huge. They almost played up like they won the damn thing. If you get on the podium, which is something in the last 10 years that has really gotten to be popular, imagine how happy that has made me. I was on the podium twice out of 3 times. I was the lowest guy on the podium. But you know what? Third is third. Fourth is last. You're not on the podium. You get a certificate. Actually, 7th is last because you don't even get the certificate. If you're top 6, you at least get the certificate. Why do I know that? Because I was 4th in Los Angeles. In many countries, if you win a medal, you basically run for office, you win the office, you have the office for life. Then you've got all kinds of corruption you can get involved in, and free housing and cars, and you can even aspire to be Sebastian Coe. I'll give you an example. You might remember this in 1984. There was a really, really good backstroker named Rick Carey. He went to the University of Texas. Who remembers this young man? Not many of them. If you were watching the Olympic broadcast in Los Angeles, you'll remember this. Rick Carey almost single-handedly won the NCAA championships for the Texas team. Phenomenal performance at the NCAA. Had a good supporting cast. They weren't supposed to win. I think they were picked for 4th or 5th. Swam out of his mind, pulled his teammates along with him. And the feeling he had from winning, not just those individual races, but the NCAA team title, was spectacular. And I know that feeling. Because I was on an NCAA champion team at UCLA my freshman year. It is spectacular, because in college and high school, track's a team sport. We all individually compete, but our points are bolstering our team. And I was my little cog in my little wheel. They didn't need my 3rd place points, because we won by 25, but I was part of it. And I got a big old ring, because UCLA was the first school to 100 NCAA championship titles a few years ago. Anybody who was on a national championship team got a ring. So I got that. It's a great memory. I love it. So he's thinking, wow, this feeling of winning this NCAA title, it's just an NCAA title. Imagine what the Olympic Games will be like if I win there. So that's his mistake. He sets this incredible expectation of what it's going to feel like to win a gold medal in the Olympic Games. So he goes to the Olympic Games. He's by far and away the favorite in both the 100 and 200 meter backstroke. Swims near a world record in the morning qualifying heats of the 100. Comes out for the final, and he wins the thing by more than a body length. He touches, he looks up at the clock. Certainly it's going to be a world record, because that's got to be part of it. It's not enough. When you're the big favorite, it's not just now enough to win. You also now have to set some records, because that's just part of it. Just the winning is a foregone conclusion. I've also been there. It didn't work out so well for me. Speaking of swimming, that's what I was doing in Montreal. I was swimming. He looked up, and it was a slower time than they swam in the heats. And you could see him standing there in the pool, floating in the pool, waiting for that feeling, that NCAA's times 10 feeling, I guess, is what he was expecting, to wash over him. And it never did. He waited and waited and waited, and it never hit him because it wasn't there. He had built it up so huge that it could never deliver. So the look on his face and his body language was disappointment. What message do you think that sent to the people who were huddled around their TV sets and their young children who they were hoping to inspire through these performances over 16 days, that this kid is disappointed, beating the competition by more than a body length, and being disappointed by it? So that was all the talk. He comes back in the 200, and basically the exact same thing happened. He tried to fake being excited, and it was clear as day that he was faking it, trying to get excited about it. He was a 2-time Olympic gold medalist, but because it did not live up to his expectation of what winning should feel like, it was a letdown and a disappointment for him. And that was the wrong message for him to be sending. He's a kid, he's a 21-year-old kid. He doesn't know what he's doing by that. He had genuine feelings of disappointment and a goal not reached. We all get that. Any of us who have set lofty goals and achieved them or not achieved them knows what that can feel like. And we usually rationalize it, we adapt to it, we figure out why it didn't happen. We put that in the memory bank, and we try to be better next time. We never heard of him again. He was done. What do you do after swimming in 1984 once you win the gold medal? You don't do anything. There's no professional swimming, so that was the end of that. But he became the poster child for how Unfulfilled expectations can affect one. And that has always been, since then, all I did was bolster my mission. That was 8 years into my mission. So I speak a lot in schools, and I love speaking in elementary schools, and I love speaking to young people, especially like third graders and below. Because number one, they love to put their hand up for any reason. So when I start, I go, how many here think that only the person finishing first place can be the winner? Well, of course, they all put their hands up. Number one, they probably believe that, but they also just like participating, which is great. And I tell them, oh, I can see I have a lot of work to do. And I spend the next half an hour trying to explain to them about doing your best. Because doing your best, the best that you're capable of, is winning. All 8 guys in that 110-meter hurdle final in 1996 in Atlanta probably thought they were going to win. They certainly thought they were going to medal. This is the way I planned it. Every snuck through in the semifinal. I'm on the outside. No one's going to see me. They all have that in their heads. Every sprinter I've ever met, regardless of how they looked in the semifinal or through the rounds, thinks that they have timed it perfectly in the final. They're in lane 1. No one's going to see them. They're going to win. And that's fine. But the truth of the matter is, only AJ won. That's it. He won the gold medal. He's the only gold medalist. And there's 2 other medalists, and the other guys lost. But he executed his game plan. And it probably wasn't a perfect race, a damn good race, but it probably wasn't a perfect race. But he probably didn't dwell on that. He won. He did what he was supposed to. The Olympic Games doesn't matter how fast you run, how high you jump, and how far you throw. It's the finishing first place. But for me, it's also the winning, which means the guy who gets in the final and gets lane 8 and gets last, if he runs a personal best, he won. I have a high jump friend of mine, Jamie Nieto, very good high jumper. Made the team when he was 37 years old in London. Finished the first guy off the podium, the second Olympics for him in a row. Happened in Athens too. But here's what happened to him in Athens. He jumped a personal best in the Olympic final in Athens. But it was on his second attempt. And a 19-year-old kid from Yugoslavia jumped it on his first attempt. And Jamie got beat out of the bronze medal by 1 miss. He PR'd in the Olympic final. It's a very small amount of people who can make that claim. Because it's a very small amount of people who can claim to have been in the Olympic final and be actually telling the truth. A smaller amount of people who got a PR. And he did it. He was devastated for the entire 4 years in between and did not make the team 4 years later, but made the team 8 years later because it about took that amount of time for him to get over. I talked to him about it in 2007, and I could see that he would start to choke up at a certain height that he used to just take for granted. It was an intermediate height. Now it became a height that was high. And as much as I would tell myself and I tell my athletes, you cannot define what high is, because if you define what high is, that's it for you. I know I was never going to jump 9 feet, but I could not put a cap on what I would jump, because if you do, that's it. That's what he had done. He had decided now, when 7.5 used to be an intermediate height on the way to 7.7 or 7.6.5, now suddenly 7.5 and something, now, okay, now I got to get serious. I can't get sloppy, it's got to be almost perfect. And I get that, because in my day, 7.5 plus, that was a good result. I was going to win a lot of meets, in fact, most meets. On my way up, that was usually a height I jumped just before I jumped at the world record. So it always had that essence for me. 7.5 and change, like, okay, I can't be sloppy here. I can't let my elbow drop below my body here. I might knock the bar off. I'm not going to be that high over this jump. And that's what he did. He decided, I'm not really a 230, 231 guy anymore. I'm a 27 guy. And it paralyzed him for 4 years. And though he finished in the top 3 of the 2008 trials, he didn't have the qualifying mark. So he didn't go. He didn't make the team. So that's what I was talking about, self-speak, how you coach yourself, and the things that you have to do to get past those stumbling blocks, those hurdles, those bumps in the road that you don't seem to be able to get over, that slump that you are in. It usually comes down to self-speak. It's not an injury. It's usually coming down to self-speak. What you're saying to yourself, the things that you used to take for granted and not even have to think about, that now you're suddenly thinking about. You're overanalyzing. You're overproducing. I'm getting off my subject. It's back to the true essence and the true definition of winning. If we as coaches, parents, teachers, instill in our young people, our peers, our co-workers, whatever it might be, that doing your best is winning. I gave a speech at Dayton Power and Light 20 years ago, and their big issue was they were really having a tough time getting accurate, high percentage accuracy off of their meter readers. Kind of an important task. for them to charge their customers the right amount of money for power. Well, let's think about what it's like right now in Dayton, Ohio, usually in January. It's pretty cold, there's a lot of snow on the ground, it's not something you want to be out in all day, and that's the job. You get a lot of part-timers, you get a lot of college kids, a lot of burnouts, whatever it might be. It's not a job that people are lining up for if there's plenty of jobs to be had, which they're worth the time. Well, I had run a real estate office at the time. I was a manager of a real estate office. And I looked at my real estate agents like athletes on a track team. I knew which ones would do certain things to get business, and I knew what they wouldn't do. So I had high jumpers, and I had distance runners, and I had sprinters, and I had all those people because those were the personalities of the agents. And I had a list of things that you can do to get business. It's a very long list. But a lot of the stuff, I knew their personalities, they just weren't going to do. So I'd bring them in and say, listen, now these 30 things, I'm taking 26 of them right off the table. I know you're never going to do them, so I'm not going to bang on you to do them. But these 4 things, I want you to pick 2 of them. Because I think these are things that you could do. And I want you to do them for 90 days, consistently, like it's your job. Because it is. And if you don't get results from doing this, and I want you to keep a diary, I want you to get good, quantifiable information. If you don't get a deal out of this, then we'll try the other 2 things. But you've got to do it for 90 days. You don't get to do it for 2 weeks and quit. And that worked for most of those agents because I took stuff off the table that I knew they wouldn't do. You keep banging on a kid to do something that they aren't particularly good at, even though it's something that's kind of important. You've got to at least give them a little dessert of stuff that they do like to tempt them and convince them to do the stuff that they don't like that they got to do. That's no different than what we're doing in our workplace, in our classroom, or out in our normal social interactions. It's the same kind of thing. You've got to be the person that has the positive attitude, the right kind of speech. Every time Eric Cooper says don't, and he says it a lot, I slug him in the arm. I want that Pavlovian response. I want him to realize what he's saying and what message he's giving. Think about how hard it is to rewire your speech. It's so easy, number one, to say no. That's the easiest thing in the world to say is no. But realize when you say don't do something, think of what the opposite of that is to give a positive reinforcement or a positive cue or a positive skill. It doesn't automatically come to mind. You have to think about it, which makes spontaneous interaction with your athletes in a short period of time difficult until you learn to do it. For me, don't land your plant became get off your right, get off my penultimate step. If I get off my penultimate step, I can't land on my plant. I've just given myself positive reinforcement to do what it is I want to do. Don't drop the arms became keep the arms moving. You know, I had it down to 4 things that I thought about during my minute and 21 seconds. And they were all positive like that, not don't anything. And I still catch myself doing it from time to time when I'm coaching, and I'm really aware of it. So think about how unaware of it you are, and you have to start thinking about catching yourself when you do it. Because language is so important when you're coaching people and coaching yourself. But more importantly, passing along the idea that if you got a kid, and we all have, 80% of the kids we have are hacks. If they're out there and they're in a good mood, or they're a good influence on the team, and they have a smile on their face and they'll do the work, it doesn't even matter if they're good. Because they show up and they do it. The kids that drive us crazy are the kids that you know could be good and won't do the work and complain about it. Because they're not achieving their goals, they're making you look bad, and they're divisive to the other kids on the team. They don't understand that they need to be and should be leaders. They're leaders in the exact wrong way. They will inspire the kids who are usually pretty good kids to be not so good kids because they watch that kid get away with it. And the best coaches I've ever worked with, including my own high school coach, was not above getting rid of that kid. No matter how good he was and how many points he could score, he was so bad for the rest of that team that he would get rid of him. Boy, what a message that sent to the rest of us. That scared the hell out of us. I don't know about you guys, maybe you have enough people where track is a cut sport here. It's not a cut sport in those days where I was. There were no girls in it, and it was a no-cut sport. I didn't know that when I tried out for the track team. I thought I made the track team. Unless you're a discipline problem, you can't unmake the track team. But now we have so many kids that now basically we cut for discipline now just to get rid of those kids because they're just a problem. It's a gigantic babysitting job. You've got 175 kids out and 10 coaches on staff. It's a gigantic babysitting job. But you keep the kids who will do the work, show up every day, not have an excuse about leaving that at home or whatever it is. And, I'm preaching to the choir here, you know what I'm talking about. We keep those kids all day long because they'll do the work. And they'll achieve what they're going to achieve. That's winning. And if you instill in them that that's winning, that's what keeps them coming out year after year, season after season. And guess how much that's going to carry over into college, and how much that's going to carry over into their job and into their personal relationships when they get older. Plus, being on a varsity track team, being able to put varsity track team on your resume, that resonates with employers. That means you gave up something else that you would rather do. And you devoted 2.5, 3 hours sometimes to this activity every day. You didn't play video games, you didn't date your girlfriend, you didn't do something else you would have liked to do. You did this, and you achieved at a level where you earned this. You're in a room with 900 people who didn't do that, you got a really good shot at getting that job. Because they know you understand a little bit about time management, self-sacrifice, delayed gratification, and discipline. That's winning. If we get kids that come back to us 15 years later, I'm an attorney now, I'm a doctor now, I'm a CEO now. It happens from time to time we get those kids come back. They're still attached to us, attached to the program. That's a win for them, and that's a win for you. That's a win for us. You know, how many times do we get the superstar? We just don't get that many of them, especially when you're in a single event like me. If you're in sprints, or if you're in distances, yeah, you have a lot more bodies that you can contribute to state meets and national meets and junior Olympics and things like that. I'm in a single event. I have cycles. I'm in a down cycle at the school where I teach now for like 4 years. I'm getting nothing but knuckleheads. But I teach for keys because I get to coach my private clients on the weekend. So I'm hanging in there. And I'm going to get a good kid. Maybe not this season, but next season. But I got spoiled because I had a good boy and a good girl when I was first there. So I got really spoiled. But you know, you hang in there and you keep going, especially for the kid that shows up every single time. And you know who's doing the workouts. Because that's winning. They don't have to make it past conference. They don't have to make it past regionals. If they give their best performance and that was not good enough to advance them, they won. And they have to be instilled with the idea that they won. Because they have other kids on the team who are going to win state or place in state or whatever, set school records, etc. If they're trying to compare themselves with that kid, that's a losing proposition. If that is stressed, you absolutely elevate your blue chippers all the time. But you've got to make other kids understand they're in that next level down. You're going to be your seniors next year or your seniors in 2 years. Make them understand that that's what you want to be. And if you work the way you could, that's possible for you. As opposed to modern day high school, Catholic high school in my area, is a pretty powerful school in a lot of different sports. This is their philosophy after the league meet. So for frosh-soph and junior varsity, of course, there is nothing past the league meet. That's it. Their season is over. And I encourage those kids to go into Junior Olympics. But for the varsity kids, if you don't make it out of the conference meet into the postseason, you are banned from the track. You do not get to use the track. You do not get to work out on the track. These are people who are paying 15 grand a year to put their kids through school. They built the track. But if you don't advance past the conference meet, you are banned. So I got a kid that's a sophomore maybe, varsity high jumper. He's a 6 feet, 6'1" kid. He gets fifth in his conference, maybe on a miss. If he doesn't advance, he's got no place to work out. And I'm pushing him into the Junior Olympics program. He's got 2 more months of jumping to do and maybe improve. Maybe he had a bad day at the conference meet. How are you inspiring that kid to come out next year? To me, that's negative reinforcement, and I guess it must work on some level with some kids. There weren't too many people out there before. You had all the frosh-soph and the junior varsity and the varsity kids. It's certainly not a matter of it's too crowded on the track now for our blue chippers who are going to CIF and to state. That's not an argument. It's not a valid argument. It's a punishment. You're not good enough. You lost. And that's what I'm talking about. Those are the kinds of things that we see all the time. I'm going to say one more thing about what happens in this state that drives me crazy, and then I will leave. I found out today that the kid that I had the pleasure and the privilege to coach, Jaron Brooks, at Henry Clay High School, is not the first Kentucky kid to jump 7 feet in high school. I guess some kid did it more than 20 years ago. But because it's not at the state meet, it ain't a state record. Are you kidding me? Are you serious? Okay, I get dual meets. Dual meets, very fungible. Not a lot of fully automatic timing. History teachers measuring the bar, I get that. Okay, no dual meets, no dual meet rings, fine. But invitationals, don't your invitationals have fully electronic timing and certified officials? For the most part, the big ones. You're not going to give kid credit for the fastest time ever run, or the highest height ever achieved, or the longest jump ever achieved in one of those meets is your state record. Does that not play into what I've just now been talking about? I mean, I'm pretty good with stats. Now, I'm told that that's the first kid that jumped 7 feet in high school, and it's 2015. I'm going, what is wrong with those people? Because we all have the same kids. This is why I coach in high school. Because nobody has an advantage, except the Catholic schools who recruit. But aside from that... Oh, where am I? That was just an accident. But other than that, we all have the same kids. If you haven't figured out yet that if a program keeps winning and winning and winning and winning, it has anything to do with the kids, you guys need to wake up and smell the coffee. It's coaching. Because at high school level, it's coaching. Which is why you people all need to be commended for even being here. Think about how many coaches aren't here. How many coaches were within 50 miles of here who are not here? 99% of them. Yeah, some of them have other obligations, and this was a conflict, I get that. But a whole lot of them are watching TV right now, who could be here sharpening their pencil, sharpening their axe. You are here. This shows that you care. This shows that you want to be better. This shows that you want to be able to give something to the kids that rely on you for the information. Because we're at the building skills level. We're where the rubber meets the road. If the kids don't learn the skills at this level, college is not about developing skills. The Olympic Games is not a developmental program. That's why we have Junior Olympics. Kids at the NCAA level, they need to know how to do stuff. They need to know the basic skills of how the events work. Now it's time to get strong and fast. Now it's time to get better. A male is fully maturing. Female's already matured by then, mostly. So whatever habits they have in high school, it's hard for them to break those habits. So that, to me, and I coach mostly girls, that gives me a bigger obligation, I think, because they're pretty much physically done by the time they graduate high school. So whatever I have them leave high school with, technically they're probably not going to get a whole lot better, because they've got habits that they've either developed that are good or habits that they developed that are not so good. And that all comes down to the coaching. They come to us almost basically as a blank canvas. You know, I almost rather have a kid who's never walked on a track in 9th grade than a kid that's been doing Junior Olympics for a couple of years and was coached incorrectly. Then I'm going to lose probably a whole year. And we've all worked with 13 and 14-year-olds. They don't like going backwards. They don't understand the idea of going backwards to go forwards, especially this generation. Instant everything, right now. Hey, coach, how hard would I have to learn to win state this year? You've never walked on a track in your life. What are you talking about? That's what they want. Well, I don't want to do this then. They'll make the sacrifice in football and basketball and baseball for some reason. I don't know why. They get the long-term commitment in those sports, but in track, they want to be good immediately. I don't get that. There's nothing more technical of the major sports, I believe, than track. When you think about the skills you have to be a jumper, to be a hurdler, to be a sprinter, it's incredible the amount of information you have to have and be able to absorb and learn. Forget the amount that we need to know if we are multi-sport, multi-event coaches, how much we need to know, which is why it's great that you are all here. And I'm assuming many of you are branching out into areas where maybe your head coach has said, hey, could you help us out in the high jump this year, or the triple jump, or the hurdles, whatever it might be, and that's not really your area of expertise, or not an event that you did, or not an event that you really worked on much, but you're here trying to learn about it, and you get to learn from one of the greatest hurdlers of all time. We're trying to figure out whether he's the highest ranked hurdler of all time. We're trying to narrow it down. I think he probably is, but he's certainly the first or the second highest hurdler. And he's had a long career and a very successful career for a lot of years. 4 world championships, I believe, and an Olympic gold medal. It's a pretty incredible career in an event that beats the hell out of you. That if you don't run it correctly and get beat up and battle and fall and get hurt, you can't be great. You know, he's going to carry the scars of that event for the rest of his life. And that's what we do. And this is what we teach, and this is what we hope the kids learn. And then the ones who we know are not going to be great, which is 90% of the kids that we have, all we can do is make it a positive experience by giving them the right information in a positive way and making them feel like the winners they are when they achieve a personal best or achieve a goal that was a reasonably set goal and they achieved it. That is the true definition of winning. And if I can just pass that along to you folks and you pay it forward to your colleagues, to your teammates, to your coworkers, and to your kids, then I have done my job. And the last thing I want to say to you is this. We ran my level 1 and 2 high jump groups together this morning, and I have a feeling there probably are not a lot of people who were not in those sessions. Who here did not go to the high jump sessions this morning who intended to? Great. If you, this group, and it's about 10 people, would like to rehash some of that stuff, let's just go back to that same classroom and do an abbreviated session. I'll answer some questions. If I need to do some demonstrating, if there's something that you would like to record that I said that you didn't get, I'm happy to do that. But there's no reason to do the same thing over again. You've already got it. Okay? Last thing. I also know that this clinic is largely sprints and distances. That's where you guys have your kids. You have an amazing cross-country program in the state that I've learned about over my 3 visits. Mine is one event, one single event. The most you can get out of your kid, if you go first, second, third, you get 9 points in a dual meet. I get it. It's a very technical event, and to have just a high jump coach is A, a huge expense, and B, you're not getting a lot of value out of it because you don't coach a whole lot of kids unless you can coach all your jumpers. That's why I don't get paid to coach where I coach. I get keys. That's my opinion. So I get it, but I appreciate the 10 or a dozen people who came because they want to learn more, they want to be better, they want to be able to develop their kids, and that is what this kind of a setting is about. And I would do one of these coaches' clinics every single day of the year if they were held and if they would have me come, because it is doing me no good inside my head. The more I can get it out there to you, I can't coach every kid, but I can coach thousands of kids through you guys. And that's what I'm about. I'm about bringing up the level of this event and filling the huge gap and the huge void and depth that we have in this event in men's and women's. Last year we had one female make the A standard for the World Championships. She was a junior in high school. Not one senior woman made the standard last year. So do we expect a dozen of them to make it this year for Rio? No. There's a good chance we will not field 3 women for high jump at the Olympic Games. And we might get 3 guys like we did last time in the high jump, and they did very well. They were second. They were basically tied for 4th, 6th, and 9th. And the 9th guy was the world champion the year before. It's really hard to jump, high jump with your left hand around your throat. But we had all 3 finalists and 1 medalist. We may not have any finalists this year, and we will have 3 guys, but we wouldn't have a 4th guy, I don't believe. So we may look good at the very top, right below that, we're in big trouble in a lot of events. And the long throws, don't even get me started on the long throws. It's a disaster. It's a train wreck. But even in the jumps, it's very little depth. That is all on you guys in every state in this country to start getting these kids ready to move up and fill in these voids. Because we still have the greatest pool of talent on the planet. And just a little bit of good coaching makes us world beaters. We're still the #1 track team in the world, but we're in jeopardy of losing that title if we don't fill in these gaps underneath. And that's why I appreciate you guys being here and allowing me to speak to you. Thanks so much for having me.